Jackie and Brittany to be able to allow the residents in independent living to enjoy the amenities in which they moved to Mayflower to enjoy. Our residents in BB and the health center can come and go now as they please, and they have been for a while. They've been boosted, vaccinated, as have you. So now what can we do to be able to allow you to come into the areas of the healthcare that provide the amenities? And we can't change that overnight either, the location of those. So what we've done is we've been intentional about only admitting people from the Mayflower. So in the last two and a half years, probably, we've had 3 outside community admissions. Otherwise, it's been all Mayflower. We needed to create a COVID space so that if anyone has COVID, we can isolate them there. We still have that in the South Village wing. We now have we're bringing up the therapy so that we have therapy for our health center and BB residents on the first floor of the health center, or they'll have therapy in BB. And so that they're not using that lower level therapy area that you all will be using. So I want to just talk about spaces, and so that you know where you're going. Where therapy used to be in the lower level of the health center, that will be for independent living therapy. How you set up your appointments does not change, but where you go does. So we will no longer be going to the second floor of Pearson. Instead, we'd be going to the lower level of the health center. And then I'll hand it over a little bit later here to Jackie to talk to you about what you do and how you get there. So that's one area that we were able to feel like, okay, we can provide safe care and therapy services to both populations. And we figured out a way to do that. Then you think about, okay, staff, how do we allow staff to clock in, clock out on the lower level? Well, they wear PPE, so they wear it anyway. And you'll be wearing your PPE in the common space, so we're fine there. Laundry's in its area, and they wear PPE when they come out, so we felt okay there. So we're feeling like we have that division, and we also have the elevator with the secure code, so you're not getting off of the elevator into the regulated areas. So we're able to get you up and down internally or from the outside with the employee entrance, or the really just the employee entrance. Then on the second floor, and this is a little bit more difficult because the Carmen Center has been such a hub to invite people from the outside of Mayflower, be able to have independent living and health center and BB all mix in together and have that socialization. And that Carmen Center is really going to be for Mayflower residents only. So we're not hosting funerals at this time. We're not doing baby showers and things like that from the outside. We're allowing our residents for health center and BB to come up, but they would need to be wearing masks if they do. And we have designated spaces for that. And Jackie will talk about that a little later. So the beauty salon, whoever has been going to Lynette, and bless Lynette for working in a temporary setup salon. The salon is something we all look forward to going to. And you've been so gracious to allow it to be a temporary space, but now you'll be able to go back on a set day that is for independent living. So there'll be no crossover there. So the one area where there can be crossover is in the common space. And that's why we really want to touch on the why we're doing what we're doing as far as infection prevention. So I'm going to stop talking at that point, and if the team needs me to add anything, they're going to say, Kelly, would you answer that? But in the meantime, I do want to introduce a couple people and say my thank yous. Without, Brittany and Lisa and Jackie, there'd be no Kelly. And that is the truth. Because if I didn't have this team, I would have a breakdown and I'd be gone. So we need each other. And we definitely appreciate all the support that we receive from the residents, from our families, from our visitors. That is why we're not in outbreak, because we followed the regulations. We have a team that bought into what we need to do and made sure that everyone was taught and everyone understood why we're doing what we're doing, and we did it. And it's not to say that we won't ever have it, because it is in stealth mode, but I'm so proud. I'm so proud of all of our residents and our staff at Mayflower. I'm not going to get tearful today. So, but with that, I would like Brittany and Lisa and Jackie just to give a little introduction. Most of you know Jackie by now because she's been here 19 years. But Lisa's fairly new, came full-time at the beginning of the year as our Director of Health Services. And then Brittany took over as our Assisted Living Director and Home Services. And I would like them to do a small little introduction about what they do. And then they're going to speak about a few things pertinent to their areas as it relates to opening up. So let's start with Lisa Liris.
Hi, I'm Lisa Liris, and I am the Director of Health Services. I've been a nurse for a little over 25 years, and I've been in an array of different areas. My last job, I was the school nurse, and I oversaw about 750 students at the middle school and Davis School. I am thrilled to be in this position, and I look forward to in-person meeting most of you one day too. I have so enjoyed working with Kelly, Jackie, Steve, Bob, all of them, and I look forward to opening up more with all of you and seeing these changes happen too. I was going to talk just a little bit about the signage. I know that all of this can be confusing and hard to understand as to exactly where you need to wear a mask and not wear a mask. So we are going to have very clear and concise signage so everybody understands what needs to be done in each area to protect everyone. Of course, the residents at the health center are at a little bit higher risk because of their health. And so we just want to make sure that we're keeping them safe and respecting opening up as well. And so I'll go into that a little bit more after Brittany introduces her. You're on mute, Brittany.
Sorry about that. I'm Brittany Hinkle. I'm the Director of Assisted Living. I took this position back end of November. Before that, I was working over in the health center. And before that, worked over in surgery at the hospital for about 6-7 years. I'm also very excited to be here and be in this position. I love the Mayflower community. I love all the residents here. I've been very blessed to work with such a great group of people and meeting all of you guys and continuing to get to know people. And I'm also very excited about opening back up in this process and seeing how everything goes.
Jackie.
I'm Jackie Hicklin, and I do infection control here at Mayflower. So I know a lot of you, but there's a lot of new faces I don't know. And what else do you want me to say right now? You want me to go into my other spiel?
So yeah, she's our Assistant Director of Nurses, and she does the quality assurance and staff development. So she's not speaking to all of her job duties, but the one today that's most important is infection prevention. So Jackie's key to making sure that we have everything reported. We're doing everything as we should be. And sometimes she may refer to herself as Debbie Downer because she's always the one bringing the news that everybody doesn't want to hear, like we have to wear eyewear, how many times we have to be tested, those type of things and those changes. But Jackie, thank you for hanging in during this pandemic and through all of the changes. And then, yes, I would love for you to share the why it's important to follow the following guidelines with the infection prevention as they travel to their amenities over at the health center.
So with the opening up and the crossover, we still have all of our regulations that we have to follow on the first floor of the health center. As far as my understanding is, people will be either coming in through BB, going up the elevator, coming across the skywalk, and either being on second floor or going down to the lower level. Somebody confirm if the employee code door is going to be given out for stair usage. I haven't heard that part yet. It will be.
Yes.
Okay.
So if a resident would like the employee code and be able to come down that way and wear a mask, they can ask for the code and receive that.
Now, since first floor is still regulated, trying to think of the right way to say it other than off limits, because it's not off limits, but we do have to follow, anyone who comes into the health center has to be screened and has to wear a mask. There is no deviation from that. There will be signage there on the elevator. It's not required to make an appointment, but we do kind of like a heads up because we still are supposed to know how many people are in the building at a time. So I know some of you have come and visited, and right there by the front door, we get screened. We're trying to figure out a way, just maybe a wireless doorbell if somebody comes off the elevator that they can press to know that somebody is there to be screened, because we can't have people wandering the halls or visiting in the halls like we used to be able to do. And that still hasn't changed in the regulated area. Let's see, what else do I need to throw in there?
We want to make this process as easy as possible for all of you while we protect the residents also. So we don't want to make it seem restrictive, and that's why we want to have the doorbell, and that we'll have the very clear signage as well. So if you do happen to get off on the first floor, we want to help you while we protect everyone.
There is a code to get off on the first floor, so that if you are wanting to visit someone on the first floor, people that live there on admission, Jackie gives their loved ones a code so that they can access the health center. So if that is something that you are wanting to do, so you're not having to go outside and come in through the front doors, just please call the health center and let them know so that they can get you the code so that you can visit someone. The other part,
actually, if you're on the elevator, you can get off. You need the code to leave via elevator.
go back up and down.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. The other part Jackie mentioned this morning when we were talking was hand washing. Just continue to hand wash. We'll be hitting those elevator buttons more often with housekeeping and those common areas, since it has not been traveled as much. We'll have wipes for the equipment so that you're wiping down after using. And as far as masking, we're asking you to mask in the common space, but if you've been vaccinated and boosted, you could take your mask off when you're working out, which would be very helpful. And Steve hit one of the topics early on. There will be a time that we would have to go back down and lock down and due to quarantine for other things, norovirus, influenza, things like that we've had in the past. And that's just due to the location of our amenity space at this time. I'd like to shift over to Brittany. Would you talk about what blood pressure clinics?
Yeah, so we are going to do a blood pressure clinic. I think we kind of talked about possibly doing Fridays from 12:30 to 1:30. So with the blood pressure clinic, you would just come right in the entrance of BB, right there in that entryway. And then a staff member will be able to come down and do your blood pressure. You would just call the number and we will have a staff there to take your blood pressures. Also in BB2, well, I'll also have signage over here, same as the health center, to make sure that people are getting screened when they come in the first floor of BB, and also on the second floor. I know a lot of people come up and use that elevator, and we don't have a sign-in area on the second floor in BB. So we'll have to figure out a process. I don't know exactly how we'll do that yet. If you'll just let someone know you're here and we'll come screen you, because sometimes we don't have staff around. So we'll still work on that process and try and figure out if you come up through the elevator onto second floor. But we still would like everyone to be screened when they come over to visit residents, and it's kind of same as the health center on that aspect.
Thank you, Brittany. I think we should just go ahead and keep with the same setup, that if you're coming to visit someone, even if you've worked out, please go back to first floor, call 213 and be screened. We'll have that one screening central location, because they do, what we're noticing is people are kind of forgetting, and that includes family members. So we're going to send out memo to our responsible parties and family members, reminding them we still have the regulation that we need to screen. Every facility does it differently, but we actually physically screen the people, and other facilities allow them just to screen themselves and go on in. But we still believe that we want to be accountable to what we're saying is coming in the building. And again, if you invite anybody from the health center or BB to any of the independent living activities, we just really want to make sure that they're protected and wearing their masks. Right now, we finally were able to get rid of eyewear. I think we've been wearing eyewear all but 1 month of this entire pandemic. Is that true, Jackie?
Been pretty close. We've been having to wear it for sure for a solid year before we finally could get rid of it.
Yeah, so we're celebrating that.
Kelly, Jackie, could you touch a little bit on the vaccination status and the testing status? I think are two things that get kind of tossed out there, but for some clarity on what's currently happening and what the requirements are.
As far as testing right now, they've changed vaccination status. You know, before we had fully vaccinated, which is if you got your first and second dose of Pfizer or Moderna, or 1 dose of the J&J. And then recently now they've changed it to, it's no longer fully vaccinated. It's if you're up to date. So up to date means currently now having 1 booster. Now I know a lot of people got their second booster yesterday. All of our health center and BB residents all got the second booster. But as of now, up to date is considered having the 1 booster. And what that means as far as our testing, if somebody's not considered up to date, they have to be tested. Well, actually, we just decreased to once a week this week, according to our community transmission rate, which is different than the community level rate that the public can see. And I don't have an answer to why they make those different, because according to the community level, it always looks like we're low. But the one that we have to follow on the regulatory side, we just got out of high for the first time in over a year last Friday. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where are we at with vaccinations for employees and residents? And
all residents are up to date, even with second booster. All health center and BB residents.
I have 1 resident who didn't get their second booster.
Oh, yes, because that person was not here.
Yeah, but everyone else in BB is, yeah.
And as far as employees, we have 4 who are not vaccinated. most everyone, I don't have an exact number, but most everybody has had a booster
Right.
as well as far as employees. We do have a handful that do not have a booster.
Thank you.
And when they were posting the statistics on vaccination, and Mayflower was ranked very, very well as far as the percentage of vaccinated employees and residents. And so to say, you know, where we have 4 people, that's incredible for exemptions, because there's a lot of places that have a lot more exemptions. And so we were feeling pretty good about things for about 2 weeks. And then the government came out soon as we got through getting everybody vaccinated or exempted. Then they came out with, oh, sorry, now you need to be up to date. You have to have a booster. So it was like, psych, take it back. So then that changed from testing, you know, maybe when you're in high, testing 8 tests a week, and we went up to doing 90. So that takes a lot of staff time, a lot of Mayflower operational money when you think about it, and the amount of time and testing and things. So now we've actually split that up and gave it to the department heads. Before, Jackie was the keeper and the tester and doing all of it. And now it's been divided up to the department heads. And then the only thing that they did do to help us out is they said, you only have to report positives. And then you have extra steps you have to do for that. So they gave us one little nugget of joy, I guess you could call it. So unless Lisa and also I just want to say, if you do have a need for Brittany in home service or anything along those lines for a blood pressure outside of that hour time frame, that we've allocated a staff member to be available and take those blood pressures. We also have a pulse ox that we can do if you want to check your oxygen level and do your pulse, any of those type of things during that time. But you can also call and set up a time and come over. We want to make sure that we are meeting the needs. Our code alerts, we should be able to answer our code alerts now. The only time that we would not answer it, and we of course then would not charge you, is if we would not have adequate staffing, and if taking someone out of the health center would put our facility at risk for immediate jeopardy. But your code alerts should be functioning and be able to be answered at this time. If you're not feeling well, please let us know if you have any of the COVID symptoms so that we are wearing the proper PPE when we do come over. So I think at this time, if it's okay, we'll just hit the high points and then answer any questions. We're just asking that you take the route that we have outlined, which is through BB and either the stairs or the elevator up, across the skywalk to the 2nd floor. And you're always wearing a mask in your common spaces. Take the elevator down to 1st floor, and that's where your therapy, your working out, your sports room, all those things will be taking place. And we will be having signage added. So just really your route in getting there, you're wearing your mask in common spaces. And if you want to make a visit in BB or the health center while you're over there, that's great. Appointments are appreciated, but be sure that you are screened before you have your visit. And now we'll open it up to questions.
I'd also like to add to that, consider washing your hands. We will have sanitizer throughout the buildings. And then when you are opening the doors, also consider using your elbow instead of your hand, because we're all unaware of how much we touch our face. And that's a way to spread infection. So if you use your elbow, then we're all helping prevent infection as well.
Kelly, if I may, 2 corrections. One is you said access in the lower level health center to the sports room. It's not open at this time. I think you meant to say the Overmiller Center exercise room. Is that right?
So you're saying table tennis, you're not expecting that to be ready by the 15th.
My
Okay,
understanding.
all right, so then,
That's
Oh.
correct. Obermiller therapy room, and we're working on the sports room.
all right, thank you, and the salon and the Carmen Center.
We're correct.
And then we're leaving the new steps where they're at.
And then Kelly, would you clarify a little more the code alert response? You said we won't respond if we don't have access, if we don't have adequate staff. What is the solution if someone needs to hit their code alert and needs help?
So in BB, the code alerts obviously we have our computer here. So if a code alert is going off, we always call, a staff member will call the number that we have on our code alert system right away. And from there, if we can reach you, we can figure out what's going on. If there isn't an answer, we typically have a staff member, someone who can run over there just to make sure that they're okay if they're not answering their phone. But typically we're always going to, we will respond to a code alert, obviously if we can. BB might not be able to go over depending on how many staff members we have here. But sometimes I've known in the past to even the health center, if there's like an aide, or even if someone could just run over quick just to make sure like what's going on with the resident if we can't get a hold of them by phone. And then from there, they can contact a nurse or whoever is around to then either call an ambulance if needed, or figure out what we need to do. So yeah, a code alert will always be answered.
Thank you. And I hate to dominate at the early stage here, but one other question. If people want to enter the health center via what we call the employee entrance, and that's the door on the west side of the building under the skywalk is the employee entrance, from whom do they get that code?
They can call me to get that code, and I'd be glad to assist them and help them with that.
I'm gonna change that up a little bit. Steve, would it be all right if it was Joni? Just because I know Lisa's has a lot going on in the healthcare side. And so if it's independent living, they could ask Joni for that code.
Yeah, I think between Joni and Julie and
Yeah,
take that off of Lisa. Yes.
How much of what you folks have said this morning is going to be in written form, and how could we get access to it? Because you've distributed a lot of information, and at our age, our memories are not as good as they used to be.
I think it will all be in written form, Jerry. We can send it out on email. I think we can
Okay.
post it on the resident portal. I mean, so
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, this is a lot of things,
Yeah.
and we're going to continue to tweak as we learn and hope that you give feedback of what works, what doesn't work, how we can do it more effectively for you. So we'll capture all of the instructions that you've
Okay.
heard and
Thank you.
send them. Yep.
I wondered about why we closed down in the first place. Was that driven by internal decisions, or was there some outside agency that caused that?
I think we go back, Gene, to, I know we go back, we didn't know. There was so much unknown, and there was death, and there was loss, and there was illness, and there was, when it comes right down to it, the nursing home is punished financially. You can be shut down, you can be fined to the point where you can't afford to be open. And so we needed to put practices in place that, number one, took care of our residents that we're responsible for in a healthcare regulated setting. And then number two, take care of Mayflower to make sure that we're sustainable and open to care for you at that level of care. So, and there's been things that have been put in place from a facility standpoint with air purifiers and trying to because we all share the same air, so investing in those type of things. But you know, a little over 2 years from now, we know more, and we feel like if someone, we've had the vaccine, we've had the booster, we have the hospitals are not overloaded. But the main thing is we made a big shift to where do we deliver the care for the people that live in the nursing home aspect. We moved it away so that there's not that mixing. So there's not a resident from the health center getting PT while somebody's getting OT from outside, because they would expect us to protect those residents and have their masks on and make sure that there's not any risk of exposure. So we've taken care of that by reassigning spaces into the regulated area.
My question goes partly to what the future might hold and what ways we're driven to be cautious. So that I think means also that there was a considerable threat from outside regulations were we to get a serious infection going in the place. Is that correct?
Correct. They're going to backtrack and they're going to come in and they're going to try to find out, why did this person get sick?
Mhm.
And they just keep peeling back the onion to see and find out where is the result of this person. And ultimately it will always be the facility if it's a regulated person, if it's a resident that lives in the health center or assisted living. So if we wanted to say, oh, well, the beauty salon continued doing hair, and somebody from the outside came in and was sitting there and under a blow dryer, and then somebody else was getting their hair done. Well, there you go. That's where they got it, and you're responsible.
If we think back to the beginning of the pandemic, they were relating it to smallpox and thinking that this was going to be just like the smallpox outbreak that happened also. And so the CDC laid extremely strict guidelines, especially on the higher risk populations like the nursing homes, because they thought that it could live on surfaces for up to 3 to 5 days. They have since done a lot of research and found it does not live longer than other viruses live. They also thought it carried further than other viruses. We know that most viruses, if you cough, it's going to carry 3 to 5 feet. They thought with COVID that it carried for a much longer distance. So part of opening up is because the CDC has had a lot of time to research things more and find out, is this truly as high of a risk as we think it is? And then with the vaccine, they found we actually are able to protect those higher risk populations too. So, you know, part of it is all of the research that has been done and the comfort level of medical staff to open up also.
I think, Jean, if you think back, and it's amazing that how quickly these things fade, but if you were in the shoes of these folks when this was all breaking in Washington, and when these first facilities were having, you know, such high levels of death, and no one knew what was happening, as Lisa's saying, and what we've learned, you know, those were very scary days for us. And, you know, to move forward, we took a conservative route for sure with their recommendations of saying, how do you do this safely? Well, we're not sure, but we think this is the best path, and followed it. And you know, we haven't seen those things recently, but that was driving a lot. And I'm just going to call out one person here in particular, and I've not, you know, done this with her, but I want you all to imagine if your job title was called infection specialist at the start of the pandemic. And so Jackie Hicklin, thank you. And I can't imagine, you know, wanting to show up the next day saying, oh my God, there's a worldwide pandemic. And who's the infection person? Oh, well, that's me. It's an incredible thing to have gone through. And so I just want to say thank you, Jackie, for sticking with it. This is as hard as it gets. I can't imagine, you signed up for this and at some point and thought this would happen, but it did. And you're still here and bright-eyed and smiling and helping people. And, we're really grateful, but I don't know how much harder it gets in a profession than, what these folks have been through. And, Jackie with the responsibility is the infection person. So again, just another big thank you. Is there anything else that we could tell you that would help?
I was going to read a couple questions because I think Jackie will probably answer some of these. And some, so I'm going to read this if Jackie's still on there. Please talk about what you would like independent residents to do if they learn they have been directly exposed to someone with COVID.
Well, as of the health center guidelines we have to follow, if you're fully up to date with your vaccinations, they no longer recommend quarantine. I mean, to me, common sense would be if you're not feeling well, to stay home. They say if you have had a higher exposure, to wear a mask if you do leave your home.
Then will the new arrangements make it more possible to stay open on the first and third floor during other outbreaks or flu or other problems? If we're quarantining, we would shut down, and it's usually for a shorter period of time, a week or two. And mainly because we have crossover with staff. You think about the salon and you think about the therapist and different things that we have going on. So we want to make sure it doesn't end up being an outbreak across campus. So those spaces then would be not any different than what it was pre-COVID. And then who do we notify if we got our booster elsewhere? You're always welcome to have Joni make a copy of your booster card. And Brittany has an independent living health file over in BB that those can be kept in so that we have them up to date. And will Mayflower be adding additional ancillary health and wellness services? And so yes, we have a well-being group that's focusing right now on that very topic and things such that we were talking about pre-pandemic. How do we deliver massage therapy on campus? And we actually have secured a massage therapist at this time at the second and fourth Friday of every month that can come on campus and have a room set up for that. But we're looking at other things, craniosacral, acupuncture, just different things that I don't want to go deep into today because today's topic is really about opening up. And we'll have another series on the well-being when we finalize our plans on that. But there's some exciting things coming. Is that good enough, Steve, on that topic?
Yeah, I think related, could someone go to Obermiller today?
Is today the 15th?
Yep.
Yep. So yes. And as of today, the current equipment that was there, it's still the same with the new steps sprinkled throughout campus. And that's what's nice too, is if we do happen to need to shut down for any reason, then you can still use the new steps elsewhere. And in our well-being committee, we're looking at having additional spaces across campus so that it's not all emphasized in one space that's directly linked to the health center.
I have a question about what the plans are that we heard about for, I think what was called Water Tower South, and for the structure in between that was going to be a substitute for the Carmen Center. Are those plans in abeyance now?
Those plans continue, Gene. I think, as you're hearing, our ability to do this is not without a lot of finagling and, risk of shutting down over and over and over again. And, at the risk of the safety of the residents, both independent and in particular health center and BB. And I think it really emphasizes even more the need for the space that won't go under quarantine, that can be accessible, that can be open, and that doesn't require, the amount of monitoring and work by the healthcare staff and the interference in the lives of the residents there too. So I'm happy that we're able to do this, but that doesn't change, the focus on the need for that community space for everyone, and the well-being space that we have there, and to really allow us to be even more focused on the health center and BB and the quality of service to those residents. And for all the independent residents, the lack of interruption in access to the ancillary services, whether it's, with Lynette or with the Obermiller Center or therapy, we just have to have another alternative. We're lucky to be able to do this right now. And as Kelly said, it may not last, but we think the conditions exist that we can do it. And that the new facility would not be open for a while. So if we can build the bridge between the time that's available and what we have available now, we'd like to do that. And again, I'm so grateful to the staff here who've done all the things to make it possible for us to do that. But as Kelly said, we just don't always know. And it could be, in a month we say there's another wave coming through and we've been required to shut everything down, and that's completely possible. So we're trying to eliminate that and provide that ongoing access to amenities for the independent living. And we'll do, as Kelly said, a session with the well-being working group, which is doing some exciting things for well-being on the campus and access.
Steve, do you want to clarify the access to the spaces that we're reopening versus that potential new community center for residents, guests? In other words, we're reopening for residents only, but the community
Correct.
center would be able to host guests, non-Mayflower residents.
Yes, thank you. That's a great point, Bob. Yeah, that right now we're not, if we do anything up there, if we have ballads and blues in the Carmen Center, it will be residents only. And if we do ballads and blues in the new space, new community center, they will be coming from Chicago, Omaha, Kansas City. We'll bring everybody in.
Yeah, I was just thinking back, 4 years ago, where the health center, and Jackie, you'll remember this, the health center front lobby was not secure. Anybody could walk in and out. We would have funerals with way beyond the capacity of 60 in the Carmen Center, and people just going up and down. It is amazing to me that there's not more infections, dignity tags, elopements, all those things that could have happened with the going in and out. So this new community center will really provide independent living, that social space without the restrictions, and also provide you or your loved one when you get there the dignity and the space that they deserve when they're living in that area of campus. And I think Steve has said it well. When he came here, is whatever you have at Water Tower Square and Harwich Terrace and that style of living should be delivered all the way through your journey here at Mayflower. And I really think that we're striving to do that with the Wellbeing Committee.
Question. I don't know if I'm on or not.
Yes,
Yep,
you are.
You're on, Bob.
What is the condition now of where do you see the mini shop going?
I think the intent, the mini shop will stay where it is.
What does that mean?
which is on the first floor of Pearson.
Right. For now, yeah, we don't have other plans for it. There's some plan to have some renovation at some point. And the gift shop committee has
Going on in the
been
basement right now.
very, very kind and patient in opening up a little bit, but we'll renovate that space. The downstairs, what was the old gift shop, is currently gutted and is being renovated as planned for well-being space.
All right, that's because
Is that
I
what
noticed
you-
that yesterday I noticed there was work going on and we wondered if that meant the mini shop was going to reopen and expand or have better space. But no, okay.
Yep.
Jack Muty, I think you have your hand up.
No.
Yes, thank you. Your comments may have clarified what I was interested in, and that was thinking way back to the early parts of the pandemic, there was a lot of concern about super spreader events and people singing. How much more do we know about singing and big group gatherings? How does that apply to either activities of Mayflower residents or the opportunity for outsiders to come in and lead activities?
So with singing, we do know it's like somebody talking a lot. So there is a little bit more transmission rate if they were to, if they're singing for a long period of time without coverage. But overall, they have not found that singing causes more transmission or causes a greater risk.
Jackie, would you share what we're requesting of community life presenters and what our process is for when someone comes in on a regulated side, just so that they understand what we do on our side? You're muted.
For singing, sorry, I was answering a private message that I got from a resident here, so I didn't hear the whole question. You're on mute now.
Jack was asking about singing. And so presenters that are coming in and singing, and the risk of that being a super spreader event by having that musical component in singing. So what we do on the regulatory side and the expectation of the presenter versus what they do for independent living, I was going to ask you to speak to what we do on the regulatory side.
Well, it's nice. We have it up in the Carmen Center, and Leslie always finds out if they've been vaccinated or not. And I think pretty much everyone's been vaccinated that's come in as far as music wise. So we just have everyone sit back at least 6 feet from the stage. And they are usually farther back on the stage. So there is a good gap between them. But we have recently been allowing singing activities.
Thank you.
I'll also add on to that we've never had more than 2 at a time for that come and sing. And our residents are masked throughout the performance as much as we're able to keep it on them.
Thank you. There was also a question in the chat, and it would pertain to everyone. And in the past, and so for people that have not worked out in the Obermiller, there is a key, and you would get that from Joni and sign a waiver and have some instructions. And I believe it's $5. Bob, you could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be where you would get your key, and that is also where you would get your code to enter the outside door before working out today, because it's the 15th.
Anything else we could addressed around this issue of opening. Leslie?
If they're going to work out today, are they expected to sanitize the equipment afterwards?
Yes.
I wanted
And
to
if they're
hear,
up to date, if they're not up to date, Leslie, so that on the employee side, if you're not up to date, then they're to wear their masks when they work out.
I wanted to hear more about what you're doing for air purification, filtering and so forth. Air handling.
Oh, with Kelly, do you have, we're looking.
I'd have to ask Jack what they installed for the health center. We do have standalone purifiers that we purchased from Jensen's. And then we have where they put it in the whole air handling for the health center, which then also does both floors. Because
And then we're doing a new air handling in the Pearson lower level space.
as you think about Kiesel is a very confined space as well, and that's where presenters and things happen. So we need to be thinking about the airflow over here as well.
Yeah.
But if you would like to know the exact name of everything on that, I can certainly get that to you from Jack. Okay.
Anything else? Well, thank you all for joining us and taking the time to listen and ask questions and clarify. And again, we're an email or phone call away, or if you see us, grab us. And again, thank you, Kelly, for bringing the introductions to the leadership staff and on the healthcare side. Thank you for your leadership to get us through this crazy hard work. And again, we're still under all the regulations. We continue to work hard in that building with the safety. We continue to ask you to do what you've done, which is to support the people who are working there with the good practices. Again, just a final thank you, Kelly, Jackie, Lisa, Brittany, Leslie, amazing work. And if there's anything, again, you need clarification on, we will do it. We will write this up and put it both in the resident portal and send it out as an email. And it's an exciting day. So I don't need all of you overworking out at the same time though. So try and space it out.
It's like putting your swimsuit on at the beginning of summer. Now you all have to put your workout clothes on and be like, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Everyone.